Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
Well, who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And what he do?
And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm board-certified criminal defense lawyer Bruce Rivers, coming to you with my pearl-handled pistol cufflinks gifted to me so graciously by our content genius, Michael Rivers. Today we are reacting to another JCS barn burner, the bizarre case of Stephen McDaniel. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com is an effective way to remotely do business. Let's say you're... I don't know, you are doing a meth lab in your basement and you are a grandma and you've got other kids in there, and all of a sudden the cops raid you and they put you in custody. You can't do anything. You make a phone call, you get your one phone call, you call your grandson, look, I need a lawyer. The grandson is out of state, so he calls the lawyer, and the lawyer e-signs a document to him. Well, you know what, you download the app, 3 free signatures a month. It's an effective way to remotely do business. It's what I do. If somebody can't come into the office or if they're out of town or whatever, I e-sign a document, because if it's not e-signed, no one signs. eSign.com. It's an effective way to remotely do business. You don't have to be the lawyer. You don't have to be anything special. Just download the app and you can use it for if you're going to sell something, you're going to rent something, you need a power of attorney. Whatever you need to do, you can do it on eSign. All right. So let's just get right into this. I haven't seen this, but we've had a lot of requests for Stephen McDaniel, or the bizarre case of Stephen McDaniel, and it starts out stalking, so I'm assuming this is a stalking case. And what did I always tell you about stalking or domestic assault kind of cases? Those guys are the biggest pains in the ass. So let's just see what we got
When
here.
forensic health professionals evaluate stalking, 4 essential items are taken into consideration: the nature of the relationship between the stalker and the victim, the stalker's motivations, the psychological, psychopathological, and social realities of the stalker, and the psychological and social vulnerabilities of the victim.
So one of the things about a stalker is that they can't take no for an answer, and they are extremely controlling, extremely compulsive, very, very compulsive, and they're pervasive. I've had a guy who is the absolute worst stalker on the planet, and he's now doing 110 months.
The subject of this episode is 25-year-old.
No, that's a happy-go-lucky. That's one handsome son of a bitch right there, isn't it? Okay. First of all, if your lady's not returning your affections, try some grooming. Just try getting the hair trimmed a little bit, trim the beard up, maybe wash your face.
Stephen McDaniel. And to gain a deeper understanding of the foregoing components, we have to extract certain elements through the knowledge of hindsight. The evolution of technology over the past 2 decades has made forensic investigations considerably more efficient.
Not only has it made investigations more efficient, it's made stalking more efficient. You can disguise your phone number, you can disguise your email, you can disguise yourself, you can do all kinds of crazy things that you could never do before.
Of the items on this list can now be examined through a single component, which would otherwise take forensics weeks or even months to conduct in a previous era. And that component is the internet, or more specifically, internet search history. The disclosure of web browser data is often a crucial piece of evidence for building a case.
Now remember what I was telling you, that these, everywhere you go, you leave a digital footprint. And so, but when you're a compulsive stalker, you sort of don't give a shit about that. Although some guys are really, really good at it. And when JCS talks about your Google search history, that paints a picture. You know, when you're Googling, like Casey Anthony, for example, when you're Googling the effects of chloroform on a child or the smell of a body, you know, I mean, it tells you what they're thinking at a particular point in time.
And unveil many aspects of a suspect's personality that would otherwise be kept hidden. And this is sometimes far more effective than anything else presented in court, including information extracted during a full confession. Without going into specific detail,
now he's cleaned up, but he still looks absolutely psycho.
Large majority of the subject's time was spent watching porn that surrounded the theme of violence and torture. He would also conduct back-to-back searches of how to commit.
The other thing that I've noticed is when people dip their toe in the depravity water, they tend to go that way and get worse and worse and worse.
sexual assault and would type in several variations of the phrase,
How to molest sleeping girl. That's on your search history. If the FBI or anybody's looking at how to molest a sleeping girl, is there a how-to for that? You can't make this shit up.
molest sleeping girl. To forensics, this is an overt sign of desensitization to sexual activity.
To experts, it means he wants to molest a sleeping girl.
Excessive exposure to online pornography can have this effect over time. It can build up a tolerance to the traditional idea of sex. Therefore, the subject may continue a more potent form of stimuli to get the same rush. For Stephen McDaniel, this began with watching abstract material on the internet and eventually led him to planning and then carrying out what he saw on screen. His target was 24-year-old Lauren Giddings.
Now, here's the deal. When you do stuff like this, the penalties in the last 10 years have gone up and up and up. And these are very difficult cases to win from a defense standpoint, because especially if you have all this internet search history, and he probably also has some illegal shit on his computer. I bet you he had child porn on there. There's just all kinds of bad things that can come from depraved sexual intent.
His next-door neighbor of 3 years. And this takes us to item 4 of the forensic checklist. With respect to social vulnerabilities, the victim essentially had none. Lauren was outgoing and extremely popular. She was a well-liked member of her community and had a strong social support system. With relation to psychological vulnerabilities, the term perceptual naivety would potentially come to light during a forensic investigation. Stephen had asked her out on a date within 6 months of their acquaintance, which was reportedly only the second time they had ever spoke.
And you think she said yes? Not likely.
Declined, but stated she would like to remain friends, which was only her being courteous and trying to soften the blow of rejection.
And ladies, let me tell you something. And sometimes it might sound cruel, but you need to be blunt and direct and strong, because these guys are not going to go after somebody who's a strong presence, generally speaking. Generally, they want somebody that's weaker.
Later tell her actual friends that Stephen made her feel extremely uneasy and was uncomfortable to be
Gee, you think?
around. It may have seemed like a non-essential observation at the time, but in hindsight, it appears that her instinctive senses were trying to tell her something.
Ladies, if you have an instinct, you have a gut reaction, follow it. 100%.
Lauren had told her friends multiple times that she felt someone had been inside her apartment, and she also started getting an eerie vibe when she came back alone, especially late at night. It was as though she could sense something wasn't right, and she even thought about moving multiple times, but unfortunately never went through with it. The reality was that Stephen McDaniel had stolen a master's key from a security guard and let himself into her apartment and looked around on several occasions. He also started filming her when she would leave and return to her apartment during all hours of the day.
So knowing somebody's routine, knowing somebody's habits, gives the stalker the opportunity to know exactly your comings and goings so that he can surprise you.
Lauren been in this situation before, or even knew anyone that had. She may have trusted her intuition and unknowingly saved herself from a tragic fate. But that's the key word: trust. She had no proof of the danger she was in, only conviction, which unfortunately wasn't strong enough when it was most needed.
And if you have these recordings in your collection of whatever, guess what? That's put a fork in you, you're done.
Stephen McDaniel snuck into Lauren's apartment once more, only this time she was sleeping inside. As he crept into her bedroom, she awoke and immediately panicked once she saw the intruder. McDaniel then pounced on top of her and proceeded to strangle her for roughly 15 minutes. Lauren put up a courageous fight and clawed at her attacker's face and chest, but she was eventually overpowered and died of asphyxiation. After the murder, Stephen dismembered Lauren's body in the bathtub with a hacksaw. He cut his victim into 5 pieces, placed each piece in a trash bag, and then disposed of each of them in separate trash cans around campus.
This, just so you know, this is not normal. This is not normal behavior. And I think everybody can agree on that. When you are that pathological, that sociopath, where you don't really have any empathy for your victim, and you're just consuming them, basically. There's no hope for somebody like that. That's not curable.
3 days later, Lauren's concerned friends would arrive at her apartment and let themselves in with a spare key. McDaniel would notice from his window and invited himself inside as he offered to help.
That is just a sick satisfaction that he gets to come back to the scene of the crime.
Belongings were still inside, including her cell phone, driver's license, and passport. A missing persons report was filed that night. A search party commenced the next morning, and police would discover the victim's torso at 9:40 a.m. It was placed in a trash can next to the apartment complex. The rest of the victim's remains were never recovered. The investigation was then switched from a missing person to murder. Police canvassed the surrounding area and began conducting interviews with neighbors and classmates, one of whom was Stephen McDaniel. But he was first interviewed by the local news, and at the time was unaware that part of the victim's remains had been discovered.
We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see her?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know?
So, it really takes a special person to look like that and to do what the hell he did.
Any enemies?
When you hear about mass shootings or senseless killings like this, they're kind of one and the same in a sense, because they're just absolutely senseless killings. If I shoot, my best friend when he's in bed with my wife, that's one thing. That's understandable. You freak out, blah blah blah. There's a reason behind it. There's just nothing short of just absolute depravity. I mean, I just can't think of another word. It's depraved, and a depraved heart. And just like when somebody does a mass shooting, there's just no rationale behind it. There's, I mean, they may have a whole, mantra or, book of their beliefs, but it's just senseless killing.
Somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing.
And every little bit of his words, like right now when he's being interviewed about this is totally fair game for a criminal trial.
I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you heard?
Body? Really? Body? What are you fucking talking about? look at his face. He's like, holy shit.
Had you seen anything there?
Oh my God! Tell me that's not just a light bulb moment for him. He's just shitting his pants right there.
I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like they took out.
He is flipping out right now. Look at his heart is just pounding out of his chest.
That's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
I think I need to sit down because holy shit, I think I'm fucked.
This is most likely a genuine reaction disguised as another. He is most likely feeling a sense of fear and shock over the fact a substantial piece of evidence has been discovered. Yes.
You think? I mean, you see the look on his face? He's like, body? What do you mean? Holy fuck, I'm screwed.
Plays it off as a feeling of sorrow over the loss of his supposed friend.
I don't know anyone that would want to hurt her.
I think you do. I mean, look in the mirror. That's the guy who wanted to hurt her, who felt, who he wanted to kill her because she wouldn't say yes to, I mean, look at your fucking hair. I mean, come on. Trim it up.
As nice a person as there is.
And he probably really is hyperventilating because he didn't think they'd ever find her.
she moving soon? Did you know anything about her?
One of the first things they do is they'll look at canvas, garbage cans, all over the place for any kind of any kind of weapon, clothing, or body parts.
Yeah, she was going to be moving out today. Why would anyone do this? Maybe I could have helped. I mean, they went in, we looked around the place, no sign of a struggle, no sign that anyone had broken in, just nothing.
He was interviewed by police at 11:50 a.m. and offered to help in any way he could, yet came across as fidgety and apprehensive the entire time. There were two highlighted moments of the interview. The first was when Stephen asserted...
And here's the thing. I always, cops get a sixth sense of these things. They really do. But a sixth sense is not evidence. And you can't arrest somebody because you have a hunch.
He was a virgin, saving himself for marriage.
Okay, you're a virgin because you're saved. No, you're a virgin for a lot of other reasons. Creepy virgin. You got creepy virgin disease. And there's another word for it. Incel. You're involuntarily celibate.
The detective discovered scratch marks on his face and stomach, which he asserted were done by himself in his sleep.
Okay, now here's the thing. When somebody fights back, guess what? Well, they don't have the fingernails because they just have the torso. Shit. Well, what happens is somebody will scratch you like this. They'll get DNA under their fingernails, or there may be some of his DNA on her torso. It very well could happen.
At that point, unknowingly became the prime suspect and was asked if police could search his apartment. Stephen reluctantly accepted and was then transported back to the complex with 4 other investigators. While searching his apartment, they discovered a collection of swords, guns, toilet rolls, stockpiled provisions.
What do you suppose he used those toilet rolls for?
As if he was expecting an apocalyptic event, and a mask made out of women's underwear. The most significant discovery, however, was a pack of condoms. Stephen was asked why he would have such an item in his possession if he was staying celibate before marriage.
Just in case.
At which point he miraculously confessed to stealing them from another apartment. This gave the detectives probable cause for arrest, and Stephen was placed in handcuffs and brought back to the police station. His interrogation began just after 11 p.m.
So they find the torso. If he hadn't done those interviews, I don't know that he necessarily would have been on the radar.
All right. I just got to ask you a few more questions. You came down earlier tonight, me and you talked, all right. You don't have any weapons on you, do you? No. That's just you are. What's wrong? You know Detective Patterson, right?
Yes.
Do you remember, put your hands up here, you remember us talking earlier tonight, right?
Yes.
You remember me earlier in the day?
Yes.
We came down here and talked a little bit and then we left?
Yes.
Okay.
The monotone dialogue and lifeless demeanor you see here reportedly started on the drive back to the police station.
In other words, the moment that I knew I was fucked, I decided to shut down completely because my system tells me I'm going to prison for the rest of my life.
A suspect's conduct throughout the entire procedure is not only mystifying, but almost impressive. This is one of the most extraordinary pieces of interrogation footage to ever reach the public domain.
I need to know about this girl right here. You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
She
See, one of the techniques is look how close he is to him. I mean, and he's getting into his space. I see this all the time.
next door to you?
Yes.
When's the last time you seen her?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Was you friends with Lauren?
Yes.
Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay?
The suspect has morphed himself into this abnormal and extremely creepy character. Whether it's a strategy or some sort of mental breakdown is unclear. But what?
I don't think it's strategy. I don't think this guy's smart enough to have a strategy. I think he's just had this feeling of dread that he knows what's coming.
Incredible is that it somewhat dictates the pace of the interrogation. The detective has just closed the distance and commanded eye contact, both of which are recognized techniques to increase psychological pressure. Yet the absurdly haunting manner in which the suspect turns his head and fixes his gaze unnerves the detective to the point where he becomes the one to look away and reset his posture. This essentially never happens in interrogations, as it can give the suspect an incredible boost in confidence.
Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay? Was you friends with her?
Yes.
Close friends?
We were good.
I mean, y'all were friends, right? Both
Yes.
of y'all are law students. You're studying to be an attorney, right?
Yes.
What kind of law do you want to go into? Criminal law?
Yes.
Civil? Is that what you want to do for a
Well, you're going to get a first-hand view of what defendants go through. He didn't realize he was in law school, and she was in law school.
Yes.
Okay.
The detective steps back from his initially aggressive strategy. He asks trivial questions for 35 seconds before attempting to ramp up the pressure in a more subtle manner.
And you've lived next to Lauren for a long time?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where she's at tonight?
No.
Hmm?
No.
Have you ever seen her with that dress on?
No.
No.
You have no
No.
idea where she's at?
No.
Where are her hands and feet? You have any idea where her hands and feet are?
Yeah.
So what's also happening is other people are watching this, through the closed circuit television, and so he's probably getting a call. Ask him this, ask him that.
Look. Just tell me what happened, brother.
I don't know.
Well, where's she at? I'm asking you for your help. I'm a detective, and I'm asking you for your help. Can you help me?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You can't help a friend out?
I don't know if he's under arrest here or not. I mean, he's certainly in an enclosed room, and if he's under arrest, Miranda attaches, okay? But and if he's not under arrest, he's free to go. And he knows what the deal is. And this never ceases to amaze me how people don't just get up either and walk away or avail themselves of a right to a lawyer. But getting confessions solves a lot of crimes.
I don't know what you need.
I need to know where Lauren's at.
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, do you?
Yes.
What's up with the pair of underwear that was in your apartment?
Doesn't everybody have a mask made out of women's underwear?
That was like a mask. It was cut out like a mask. You cut underwear out that look like mask?
No.
Are you a knife collector or a knife person, or
No.
you just like knives?
I used to collect swords.
I mean, do you know your swords?
Yes.
I mean, to sell and trade swords?
No.
Is that how Lauren looked with the long hair the last time you seen her?
Yes.
Or she cut, that's how she looks?
Yes.
And see, when they searched his apartment, they would have had searched his computer, gotten his computer. They certainly would have gotten that surveillance footage, the surveillance footage that he took.
I mean, earlier today, me and you sat here and talked normal. What's going on with you now? Why are you acting like this? I need to know. Why all of a sudden you're acting like this?
I don't understand.
Okay. Earlier today, we sat here and talked. But now you're acting like you don't know what's going on. I mean, did something happen or something to you?
No, I just kind of realized that I'm screwed.
I mean, why are you shutting down? Why are you not talking to me?
I don't know.
You don't know? Are you scared?
No.
I mean, you're not scared, are you?
No.
Stephen's demeanor doesn't waver for the first 20 minutes, so the detective eventually takes a more distinctly aggressive approach. He attacks the subject's character to see if it might coax him out of the act and into defending his dignity.
You got your ass on that fucking news and stood out there and gave a media report that her mother saw about her missing daughter. And you want me to sit there and tell him that you don't know? Is that what you want me to tell him? Because you're all over the news.
I mean, I don't know that he would have surfaced if they would have, if he would never have been on the news, but he just couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself because he had to go to the apartment when the friends were there. He had to be part of this. He's kind of has a sick, twisted, compulsive nature about him.
You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media, but now you're going to get out here and you don't fucking know. You know.
You don't fucking know.
You're just a sorry piece of shit that don't give a fuck.
God, nice. Nice interrogation technique.
Well, why'd you tell the media everything? Do you need to see what you told the media today? It was on the 11 o'clock news.
How about the point when they told you they found a body and you just about shit your pants and you had to sit out?
Well, I'm asking you. Tell me. I want to know.
I don't know where she is.
That ain't what you told the media. You didn't stand in front of that camera and say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
See, every ounce of this is fair game for trial. So when you have a defendant's statements, however, when the officer goes on and on, calling him a piece of shit, and there's a whole bunch of it that might not be admissible.
I need you to tell me what you want me to tell her mother. And then I won't ask you another thing. I'm not going to tell her mother that you don't know, because her mother saw you on the news tonight. And she cried all the way down to Macon. Because you had the balls to get on the news and tell everybody everything. So this little act that you're doing right now ain't working with me. Okay? So you need to snap out of it and tell me what the hell happened so we can move on.
I don't know.
Well, how many times you gonna say I don't know? How many times you gonna say it? If you did something that you regret, you need to let me know.
I didn't.
Well, who did?
I don't know.
Whether it was planned or not, the second detective enters the room with a similar strategy of immediate aggression. Rapport development seems to have been collectively thrown by the wayside.
What's up, man? Did you talk to him about his guns?
Yeah.
When was the last time you shot those guns?
I haven't.
You've never shot a gun?
No.
Have you ever shot any gun in your whole life?
No.
Never.
No.
So you bought 3 guns that you've never shot.
Yes.
Why?
To have.
For what?
To have.
So he's got a completely different personality, and it's just a coping mechanism is all that is. So the officers are taking a really, all of a sudden now, let's see, how far into this are we? Like what, about 16 minutes into this? And I don't know how far into the actual interview they are, but they're frustrated because they want to know where her body is, right? They want to know where all the pieces of her are so they can solve this case. And they're taking an incredibly, calling him a piece of shit and he doesn't fucking care. And I don't know that that's in the training manual.
For what? I'm asking for what? Why do you want to have them? What did they give you? Tell me why it's important to you to have 3 guns. That's an easy question. Come on, talk to me, buddy. Me and you talked all day today. We ain't had a problem.
And just as an admission says a lot, the lack of saying something also says quite a bit. Because when he's not himself and he just answers back with, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, just to have, you know, in that mousy piece of shit little voice that he's got, that says his demeanor and his lack of candor can also say something quite telling. And it's expresses a consciousness of guilt.
Okay? Why is it important for you to have 3 guns?
I don't know.
Do you not know?
No.
You say you don't know where Lauren is, right?
Right.
You told me earlier you and Lauren were friends, right?
She's around.
How would you describe y'all's relationship?
She was my friend.
She was your...
She wasn't his friend. He asked her out and she blew him off. And then he killed her.
What? Did you ever do things for her? Did she ever do things for you? What did she ever do for you?
We talked.
We talked... What y'all talk about?
News.
The news?
So this is actually good because, you know, he's getting out what the relationship was like and about.
Okay. How many times have you been in her apartment with her hanging out?
I don't know.
You don't know? If you had to guess...
How about when she was sleeping and she didn't know you were in there? How about when she was gone and you let yourself in?
Just, I mean, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times what?
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2? See, if I had only been somewhere twice, I could remember that. If I had been there over 50 times and you asked me how many times I've been, like, I don't know, a lot. But the fact that you've only been there twice, when I say how many times you've been there, you say you don't know, that's just odd to me. Does that make sense to you?
That's the kind of thing that I was saying there, but whether or not that commentary is inflammatory and what is important to him, who gives a shit. But it is a good technique.
Yes.
That does make sense. So what I'm saying right now makes sense.
No.
I mean, nothing he says makes sense. The defendant, I mean.
Lauren's missing. This pretty little girl right here, your neighbor, she's missing.
Much like Detective 1, Detective 2 now valiantly moves in for the psychological charge. He closes the distance and locks eye contact. His physical demeanor, alongside a prolonged gait...
Years ago, they used to take a phone book and beat the shit out of you with a phone book.
will hopefully crack the suspect's fortified barrier. Once broken, the momentum will commence and the suspect will be more likely to divulge incriminating information. All the detective has to do is maintain eye contact for longer than his adversary. It's a psychological battle of attrition between two opposing forces, and these moments can sometimes last for minutes on end.
And it's really uncomfortable. But realize that at any moment he could end this questioning either by walking out or by asking for a lawyer.
I know.
Me and you both know it's no different than when you was a little kid, right? And you reached in that cookie jar and you got caught after your mama told you not to get that cookie. And when she was, did you get a cookie? No. And whenever you tell a lie, you feel bad about it right then. One, with every lie, there's a chance you're going to get caught. And that weighs on you. Because you know you did something bad. Am I right?
I didn't do it.
You didn't take the cookie?
No.
You smell like you've been cleaning up, like you've been using cleaner to clean up. I know what that smells like. My wife smells like that all the time when she cleans the house. You've been using some kind of cleaner to clean up your apartment, hadn't you?
No.
That's a good point. If he really does smell like cleaner, like bleach or whatever, that's a telltale sign.
You telling me you live it like a man? How does your apartment get cleaned?
I cleaned it.
When was the last time you cleaned it, Stephen?
I don't remember.
Was it this week?
No.
You mean you go a whole week without cleaning?
Yes.
Wow.
He's got this just complete other worldly personality. And I think he's just scared shitless, I think is really what's going on there. Because if you remember when he's talking to the news media and all of a sudden they tell him they find a body, a moment, you can tell it's a moment of panic.
That's horrible, Steve. I don't know how else to say it, Stephen. Let me tell you what I think. I think that she was a friend of yours. Look at her right here. I think that she was a friend of yours. And I think something happened, Stephen. You used to watch her come in and out of her apartment, didn't you?
No.
How do they know that? How do they know that?
Well, how y'all doing?
We're just talking. See that pretty girl right there?
Yes.
You telling me you looked at a pretty girl like that and you never once thought, ever, man, she looks good. You never thought that?
I don't understand.
I mean, now he's like this kind of mentally helpless person, which is just BS because you know he's not.
What do you mean you don't understand? You know how when you sit there and you see a girl walking down the road, and you say, man, that girl looks good. You ever see a good-looking girl down the road, you think to yourself, man, that girl looks good?
Yes.
You never thought that about her?
Yes.
So you mean to tell me you look at porn on the internet and get off to that, but you never looked at her and said, man, I wonder what it'd be like to have sex with her?
Yes.
You have?
No.
No. Yes.
Stephen, this is hard, buddy. I know this is hard.
Get your fucking hands off me. Get your hands off me. I mean,
I can tell it's on you. You want to let it go. There's blood in your apartment, Stephen.
uh-oh. Good blood. Is there blood? See, one of the things that they can do is they can lie to you. And if all of a sudden they tell him that there's blood, her blood has been found in his apartment, he might cough off some details that he wouldn't have otherwise coughed up.
You didn't get it all up.
This is the widely recognized futility technique, which is used to make the subject believe it is useless to resist due to the overwhelming evidence against them. It's most effective when the interrogator can play on doubts that already exist in the subject's mind. The only problem here is that Stephen didn't dismember Lauren inside his apartment. It all happened in Lauren's apartment, so the detective's bluff is already called at this point.
It didn't all come off. You scrubbed and you wiped. But
So, one of the things that cops can do is they can lie to you in an interrogation to try to pull something out. But it seems like it's, I don't know if it's working here or if it's backfiring, but we'll see.
you can tell that. Don't you watch CSI? Yeah, we know it. Stephen, why is there blood in your bathroom?
The detective now completely shifts his strategy from confrontational and aggressive to sympathetic and understanding. He attempts to create a connection and then afford Stephen a more socially acceptable reason for the crime. This is extremely difficult to pull off after a direct confrontation, as there is no established rapport nor trust. The usual routine is the exact opposite. You would first build rapport and then get aggressive once a connection has been attained.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it.
That is just the biggest crock when they say, oh, get it off your chest, it'll help you.
I wanted to be here with you to go through that process because I know you're not a monster, man. I know you're
Yes, he is. 100% he's a monster.
not a bad guy.
Yes, he is. He is a bad guy.
You're just a hard-working student trying to pass a bar exam, ain't you?
No, he's a bad guy.
You ain't got a lot of support from your family, do you?
No, because he's a bad guy.
You do?
The strategy fails at the first hurdle. Stephen immediately shuts down the afforded sympathy and reasoning behind the alleged crime, which was the concept of unsupportive parents. But the detective now attempts to roll with it.
A lot of people can't say that. And the fact that you do have support from your family should make things easier. Your family wants to feel like they've raised somebody that tells the truth and is honest, right?
Yes.
Did you hurt that girl, Stephen?
No.
Have you ever hurt anyone, Stephen?
No.
You've never hurt anyone.
No.
I've hurt people, Stephen.
Yeah, no shit, you're a cop.
I've made mistakes in my life. It's not even normal to say you've never hurt anybody. Sometimes people get mad and they say things they don't mean to say. It hurts. You never kicked a dog or a cat?
The lead detective then asks non-confrontational questions for almost 30 minutes, which is most likely to see if it will change the suspect's demeanor and the manner in which he responds. But it doesn't. Stephen maintains the same lifeless disposition which he has now kept up for almost 90 minutes.
You know what's crazy? I was talking to people that he works with and everything. They talk about how he's always expresses himself.
But he don't know.
He's very talkative. Stephen, they say you're so talkative, buddy, that you're always so friendly. You stop in and say hello, and you talk.
You can tell they're getting a little frustrated with him.
Well, why is it that you're acting so short with us tonight? If you have all this character and personality about you, why is it that everything that we get from you is yes, no, or I don't know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Why are you acting like this, Stephen?
Like what?
You see how I'm able to talk in complete sentences? Like we're having a conversation, but the only thing you're bringing to the table is a yes, no, or I don't know. Stephen, did you hurt that girl?
No.
No.
Would you tell me if you did?
Yes.
Have you lied to me at all in this interview?
No.
Yes, you have, Stephen. When was the last time you did laundry?
A few weeks ago.
You ain't washed clothes in a few weeks?
Now that's probably one of the truest things he's said the whole time. He doesn't look very clean.
Yeah.
Why?
I have a lot of clothes.
No, you don't. That's another lie. You don't have a lot of clothes.
Yes, I do.
No. You got enough underwear to last you 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Do you wear the same pair of underwear more than one day?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, what a creep.
Why?
Because I turned him inside out and then backwards so I can get 4 days out of a pair of underwear.
Because it's still clean enough to wear.
Because I don't poop in my pants.
Where's that little girl, Stephen?
I don't know.
Stephen, you know. You're going to look at this right here, this little girl right here, and you're going to say you don't know? I know you know.
I don't know.
Yes, you know. What are you going to say tomorrow when I say we got your hair? What are you...
See, now they're going on 2 hours of this. And, you know, sometimes these interrogations can last several hours. And it's grueling. It's grueling for the investigator, and it's grueling for the person sitting there. And 90% of the time, people wear down and, you know, cough up the details.
say to me then? Because, you know, like I go like that. Look at my hair. That's how easy it falls out. Look at all that on your head. You don't think nothing fell out? It did.
As we know, Stephen went inside Lauren's apartment with her friends 3 days after she was already deceased. This would give reason for his DNA being found at the scene.
That's true, actually. When your hair or your DNA is found somewhere where it's not supposed to be, DNA under her fingernails, or your hair in her bathroom, you know, like he's saying. But if he did go in there with her friends to do whatever, it gives an innocent explanation for the presence of his hair when it's not supposed to be there, because they're not friends.
Nullify its use as damnatory evidence. Stephen, being a law student, would be well aware of this.
We just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it, so you didn't look like a monster at the end. Because you know what? I don't...
You think he's really concerned with him looking like preserving Stephen's position in life as a non-monster? I don't think so.
I believe that you're a monster, Steven.
I do.
I believe that you're a good guy. You've been picked on. Girls didn't show you the respect that you deserved. You did something stupid. And I believe you feel bad about it. And that's why you're all freaked out right now.
That's probably a true statement.
But I'm giving you the opportunity to get right. I'm giving you an opportunity to show everybody you're not a monster, that you feel bad about what happened. Your hair is there, man. Your hair is there. That's right, buddy. See that? Look at it.
When you see a detective getting that animated, you can tell they're getting frustrated and not getting what they want. And I think, if you have a smart defendant on the other side, they can sense that.
See how easy? See this stuff right here, your hair? Yeah, it fell out of your head when you was moving the body, Steven. That's right. You remember moving the body?
No.
Yes, you do, Steven. Why, man? Why? Tell me, bud.
Get your fucking hands off me.
Yes, you did, Steven. We want you to tell it so that way people will understand you.
So, his hand's almost around his neck. One could argue that's a physical intimidation tactic that would, not necessarily invalidate the, the voluntariness of any confession, but it certainly is physical, and you can't use physical punishment to coerce a confession.
A monster. Things you got out of control. It's a sickness. Why'd you do it, Steven?
I didn't do it.
Steven, why are you going to keep telling that? You hurt that girl.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, Steven. You hurt her, man. She was screaming. Screaming, Steven. Why? And I know you feel bad about it. I can see it in your face. What came over you, man? What happened, Steven?
I don't know.
I know you don't know.
Yeah, so we're almost at 2 hours into this interrogation.
You couldn't control it, could you?
I didn't do it.
Steven! They steal your hair and take it over there? They didn't, did they? That's right. It's all sinking in right now. He knows, is what you're thinking. Steven, I don't want it to be a game between me and you.
And see, at any minute, he can end this questioning. Anybody can. Just say, I want a lawyer present. That's all you got to say, and they have to end the interrogation. I have to say, his mental toughness to maintain these denials through some alternate personality, because that's not who he normally is actually quite impressive. He certainly is looking at murder one. That's premeditated murder. Most certainly would probably qualify for a capital crime in Georgia, and they have death by lethal injection.
I know you're not an awful person and you want to tell it. Your hair was there, Steven. We've all known it all along. We wanted just to give you an opportunity to tell what happened. Did y'all have sex?
No.
Did you try to have sex?
No.
You think about having sex?
No.
Liar. What kind of man?
So this badgering, there would be grounds to keep this out of some of this out of a trial, because it's got to be, more probative than prejudicial. So if it's just the cop, him saying this, and then the defendant saying no constantly, you'd have some grounds, and to keep it out. But the prosecutor probably wouldn't want to have all these denials in there anyway.
You said earlier you like girls, right?
Yes.
You said she's a pretty girl, right?
Yes.
What'd you do to her, Stephen?
I didn't do anything.
You're lying. You hurt that girl.
No, I didn't.
Sure it did. And that's why you're having this massive meltdown right now.
The detective quite literally repeats the phrase, "You hurt that girl," to which Stephen responds, "No, I didn't." And this goes on for the best part of 20 minutes. Perhaps the detective's strategy was to induce mental exhaustion, yet it had no effect whatsoever.
Why did you hurt that girl?
I didn't.
Why'd you hurt her, Stephen?
I didn't.
You hurt her, Stephen.
No, I didn't.
Then you did.
So when you have a trial, the defendant's statement comes in, right? But if it's just the same question over and over and over again, it's repetitive. So one would argue that it doesn't meet the other, cumulative is an objection that you can have. There's also, it's really just all these statements of the cop who's basically testifying and then Stephen just disagreeing with him.
You take this from me. You don't deserve to look at it. Just stay right here, okay?
Okay.
I
Okay.
appreciate all your cooperation tonight, okay?
Okay.
Now, another thing that they'll do, and I've seen this done quite often, is nobody's asking him any questions at this point, right? And he's sitting in a room by himself. I've seen this time and time again, and they'll let the person sit there for hours on end, and then the person is recorded. And they may or may not know that they're being recorded, but they'll let their guard down sometimes at this point.
All right, we're getting ready to go. I just need to discuss a few more things with you.
The lead detective now abandons the pursuit of any sort of admission. He instead proceeds to belittle and humiliate the suspect as much as possible. It may have a tactical purpose, but it's more likely out of frustration, alongside the fact he is certain of the suspect's culpability.
I know earlier today you told me you stayed home all weekend, right, in your apartment.
Yes.
Did anybody see you? Did you talk to anybody over the weekend? Were you on your computer all weekend? Is there anything I can look at that I can say he couldn't be involved because he was on the computer, or he was online on a porn site, or he was online doing college work, or anything that would exclude you as being involved altogether? I mean, did anybody see you this weekend at the house? Did you go out to get a newspaper? Did you wave to a neighbor, or you just locked yourself in all week?
So without an admission, they need to create the circumstantial case. And a circumstantial case is just as good as direct evidence. Direct evidence is where, I saw that person do X, Y, and Z, or it's on video or whatever. A circumstantial case or circumstantial evidence is where, for example, you can tell that a car went through the snow because there are tracks in the snow. And so they take little bits of his, certainly the stalking video that we saw at the beginning of this is you're halfway there, to be honest with you. And then you look at his internet search history and you put all these other pieces back together, along with his hair being there at the scene. So they've got a lot, but they don't have the smoking gun.
Yes.
Nobody saw you?
No.
I mean, what, do you just stay in the house all day?
Yes.
I mean, what do you do all day in the house? I mean, you've always done that your whole life? You don't have no friends? How can you go your whole life without a friend?
I have friends.
Where they at? Where they at? You have any friends here in Macon?
Yes.
Name one, because everybody I talked to said they ain't your friend.
Ryan Granger, Cass Lawson, Ashley Morehouse, Carmen Love.
That's the same people I talked to today, and they're not your friend.
Well, they're not their friend now.
One of the reasons interrogations are so fascinating is the ethical vacuum it creates for everyone inside its bubble. In any other circumstance, the detective's behavior here would be considered cruel and reprehensible. He's essentially bullying the suspect. Yet the empathy we would normally have is now stripped away through the impression of retribution. We know this person has done something horrific, and the treatment he is now receiving is merited through his own actions.
We're not your friend. I mean, it's all over anyways. I just want to know what was going on tonight. Game's over. I mean, we know what you did to her, so we just want to know what you, if you were going to tell us or not.
I didn't do anything.
Well, that's what you say. But we know different, so you're fucked either way.
Now, would it be a technical term, legal term, or are you just talking off the cuff?
You're fucked. We already know. We know you killed her. We know you put her body in the trash can. The news media knows it.
They've been working on him for a long time to get this confession.
Glenda knows it, your mother. Your sister knows it. Your sister's husband knows it. The one that used to beat your sister. He knows it. You know what he said? He said he's a crazy motherfucker, is what he said.
You know what he said? He said, "You're a crazy motherfucker." You know, I think they want to find her. They want to make sure that, and this gets the better of them, to be honest with you, because they don't need to be like this. But, I mean, like JCS said, Steven's not a sympathetic character, and any sympathy for him went out the door. So who gives a fuck, right? If he beats the confession out of him or not. Well, we do care. We do care because we don't want... I mean, here's the thing. What if all they had was the confession and very little to corroborate the confession? Well, you get a bad confession and that gets tossed out because you can't coerce a confession. You can't beat a confession out of somebody. It's got to be knowing, voluntarily, and intelligent. And without that, you can screw up a whole case.
What I call them. That's your own family calling you crazy.
Nobody wants to see you. Nobody's coming to visit you. So you can sit there with that dumb look on your face. But it's over.
The entire interrogation took over 2 hours. When sped up by 20,000%, you truly get a glimpse of how remarkable the suspect's catatonic performance was.
Yeah, he barely moves this whole time. And notice they never offer him anything to drink or to eat. I had one client that had a confession coerced out of him with KFC.
His mother came to speak with him soon after this moment, and although he maintained his innocence, he immediately snapped out of a zombie-like character. It's difficult to interpret the reasoning behind the performance, whether it was a pre-planned strategy, improvised in the moment, or some type of psychological breakdown is unclear. But whatever it was, it evidently seemed to work, as the interrogators got nothing. The suspect's behavior was so abnormal, they were essentially at a loss with what to do, or where to even start with a specific plan of attack.
But if you also look at his internet search history, but look at his apartment, look who he is as a person, he does seem odd, just generally speaking.
Evidence, however, was irrefutable. Hundreds of pictures of Lauren were discovered on Stephen's flash drive, along with multiple video recordings of inside her apartment. A hacksaw was found in a supply closet of the apartment complex, and it was marked red with what was later identified as Lauren's blood.
Whoops.
DNA testing. The packaging for the exact same hacksaw was found in Stephen's apartment. When confronted with the evidence, he took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty and was rendered a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He is currently being held at the high-security Hancock State Prison in Sparta, Georgia.
Well, that's been our little reaction to JCS, the bizarre case of Stephen McDaniel. You know, ladies, you know, if a guy has an unhealthy obsession with you, act on your gut instinct. You know, I'm not going to tell you to have a firearm at your ready, but wouldn't hurt you to have one on your bedside, as long as it's, you know, stored properly. Deaths like this are so senseless. Crimes like this are just an absolute travesty. And people like Stephen need help. But here's the problem. When somebody has some kind of narcissistic personality disorder and they are obsessive compulsive over somebody like this, you can't fix crazy like that. You just can't. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer with our content genius. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. And before we go, let's have a shout out to JCS. You know, these videos that he does are absolutely top quality. And that's why we react to him, because he picks the good ones, and I just add a little bit more to it. So JCS, go to his site, give him a little bit of love. We'll see you next time.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?